Okay. Yes, we are live and ready to go. Let me just close this tab right here. And let's get rolling. Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing for the Duran Live number 52? I hope everyone's having a good Friday and everyone's planning for a really good weekend. So I have with me the one, the only, the legend, Mr. Peter Lavelle in Moscow. Peter, how are you doing?
Very well. I just want to give everyone, again, a warning. There's a lot of construction going on in my new building. So if you hear some drilling, I can't do anything about it. And I just apologize. Okay. So
well, I got the same thing at this hotel. There's a little construction going on next door. So
yeah,
there may be some noise.
Maybe we'll they can cancel it out. Okay.
Yeah. We'll get through it. All right. If you guys can hear me, if you guys can see me, if you guys can see Peter, hear Peter, and if you guys can soon hear Alexander, let us know. Alexander, the Oracle of London in London, how you doing?
I'm doing extremely well. Looking forward to our program. Lots of juicy things to talk about.
All right. Yes, we do. We do have a lot of stuff to talk about. So let's just jump right into it. Assange defense strategy gives a little bit of validation to the Debs for the Russian collusion. Very strange story. Yeah. Very strange story. Very strange defense strategy.
Yes.
We have, of course, we have Bloomberg and the theatrical performance of his campaign, which I'm sure everyone saw the debate, or at least has seen clips out of the debate, and everyone's buzzing about it and talking about it. So we'll have a lot of good stuff to say about that. And of course, we know that Hillary Clinton is waiting in the wings. Everyone's talking about a brokered convention. Today, actually yesterday, we had the New York Times article. What does it say? 5 anonymous sources claim that Russia will be meddling in the 2020 elections on the side of Donald Trump. They already know this.
Anonymous sources.
Not five anonymous sources. And of course, we had the Roger Stone verdict, 40 months for telling lies, while everybody else like McCabe, Comey, everyone knows who these people are. Brennan, Clapper, they're all walking free. Actually, some of them are even commentators on CNN, paid commentators on CNN and MSNBC. And let's not forget that we have a lot of tension in Syria between Turkey and Russia. And of course, we have the coronavirus, which is really ramping up and is pushing the world economy to what may be a grinding halt. A lot of businesses are stopping activity, a lot of businesses. So Alexander, the title was for you and the quote, because all of these stories and the Hillary Clinton photo back there tells me that something bad is around the corner. At least that's the feeling that I'm getting. And Alexander, by the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. And that's from Macbeth. It's also a Ray Bradbury novel, a very good novel by Ray Bradbury called Something Wicked This Way Comes. A lot of crazy stories out there, guys, but I don't know. Something tells me that between Assange and Bloomberg and the attack on Bernie Sanders and the convention coming up, Russia, Syria, coronavirus, I don't know, something doesn't feel right.
Indeed so. Something wicked this way comes. That was said by the three witches of about Macbeth. What is the wicked thing that might come? Well, Hillary Clinton springs to mind. Perhaps it's a sign that she's on her way. This, it seems to me, is the theory that we have with the Bloomberg situation. I mean, the general consensus seems to be that he is working towards creating a brokered convention to stop Bernie Sanders becoming the Democratic Party's candidate for the presidency, and that this is all basically part of a massive Stop Bernie campaign. It's not really a Bloomberg campaign at all. And of course, the person that they will be trying to parachute in is Hillary Clinton. So if that's true, if that is indeed the case, well, our thumbs have every cause to prick, because in my opinion, if Hillary Clinton does come in our way, that really would be something wicked.
It would destroy the Democratic Party.
Well, it would.
I mean definitively break. The interesting thing is I really enjoyed our What's Up exchange yesterday.
Yeah.
And I know you guys are really busy, but number one, Bloomberg doesn't care about his performance.
No.
Okay, that's why he didn't prepare.
No.
He doesn't care. Number two, he probably doesn't think most people care.
No.
Less than 2 million people saw it. Okay, it'll be it went through one news cycle, maybe two. Okay. The thing that I found really interesting is that it's the talking head class, the media bubble people. Oh, they all went into a frenzy, and that's all across the spectrum. Okay, of course, and they were all giddy and excited about it. All right, but does it really matter? And I don't really think it does. After I'm going to get I hope I get my numbers right. I think Alex Christopher, you watch the same programs I do. What was it? No, it was on the Young Turks. 4 or 5 Congress people endorsed Bloomberg after the debate. After.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this is what it is. You know, look, Bloomberg has been in and out of politics for a long time, and he gives money to all sides because he wants to have influence. All his strategy now is he calls somebody up and says, "Don't donate any money." You know, it's not say donate. My favor to you is don't donate to anyone else. All right, it's a unique strategy. We've never had someone with so much wealth running for the presidency, and it looks like he'll be willing to spend hundreds of millions of dollars moving forward. I mean, that's all campaigns combined. All right, and he'll do it with ease. One thing in his defense is that he's made it very clear over the last couple of years that he's going to give his wealth away. And so this is it. This is his way of putting his thumb on the scale in a massive way to show everybody he can do it. And there's nothing you can do to stop him. All right. And that shows the endorsements after the debate. Sure, he got roasted. There's an echo. There's an echo here.
There's an echo.
Okay.
I hear you fine, Peter.
I hear you fine.
Peter, I hear you fine.
Yeah.
Hello?
Wow, what was that?
I don't know. I hear you fine.
Spooky.
But I was getting an echo back.
Okay. Anyway.
I don't know. Continue. I hear you all right. I don't know if people in the chat are hearing an echo.
Okay.
I'm hearing you okay.
All right, but I just heard a feedback. Okay, it's gone now. I'll just continue. So I'm not sure this is a backdoor effort to help Hillary. I don't see that yet. I think what he's doing is he's playing it as he sees it. I think the most meaningful conversation we'll have is after Super Tuesday, because that's basically going to say everything. I mean, if you have candidates with 30%, 15%, 10%, 11%, that opens the door to a brokered convention, and that's where the Bloomberg's vault doors open up. All right, and it's going to start, and we go really right back to the 1920s, smoke-filled rooms. I mean, it's going to be horse trading, and it's going to be very expensive. That's why none of these people are going to drop out, because they're going to want their payday. They want their payday. They're not going to leave. They're going to leave now. No, these delegates are worth something. Remember, I never could pronounce his name, even though it's a Slavic name. Trump pardoned him a couple days ago. The guy in Illinois. Blowjoy or Joe yeah. But I mean, this is going to happen all over again. But it's going to be real. I mean, this is what's going on. This is going to be real horse trading. But the thing is, okay, fine. We like to watch and comment on it. But if they're not careful, and certainly they're not careful, and they're not introspective, they're destroying the Democratic Party. Donald Trump is going to get a Nixonian-like victory in November, the way things stand right now. Nixonian.
All right. Guys, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention where everyone is joining us from the country. Some people mentioned it. I apologize for that. We'll get that on the next live stream. Everyone that's joining us from all over the world, wherever you are, thank you very, very much for joining us. It slipped my mind this time to name all the countries, but thank you very much to everyone that's here. Alexander, what does Hillary and the Hillary machine and the deep state have over Michael Bloomberg that he has embarrassed himself so much, that he's made such a fool of himself? You're worth 65 billion. 65 billion. Why are you doing this? I mean, Peter alluded to some of the reasons, but I mean, why put yourself through this? How old is he? 78, 79?
79, I think. Yeah.
Why are you doing this? What do they have over him? That's my question. I don't know. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe I'm drama.
No, I just think he knows he's never going to be president, so he wants to be the king maker. That's that's all he's trying to do right here. And he despises Bernie Sanders, maybe because Bernie actually earned it the hard way. And, and look at it, Bernie isn't reliant on the DNC. His donors are individuals.
Why put yourself through this? Why put yourself through such embarrassment, ridicule?
Do you think that he cares, Alex? Do you think he really cares?
I think he does. I mean, he's worth so much. He's made, I don't know. I mean, he must have a massive ego. He has to have a huge ego. I mean, I don't know. I just look at the guy and I say, why would you do this to yourself? If he was like 50 years old or 60 years old, I would say, okay, maybe he wants a legacy. Maybe he wants, or if he had the energy of Trump.
I hear you fine.
Trump has that energy. So I would say, okay, maybe if he's got that, that gusto that Trump has, I could say, okay, but this is
spooky.
Now I'm hearing an echo, Peter. Hello?
Hello?
Okay. Anyway. I hear you all right. I don't know if people in the chat are hearing an echo.
Okay.
I'm hearing you okay.
All right. I just heard a feedback. Okay, it's gone now. I'll just continue.
It happened again.
So I'm not sure this is
I can hear my own voice.
Does someone have their computer on?
Hillary. I don't see that yet. I think what he's doing is
Someone have the video playing, the video?
I think the most meaningful conversation we'll have is after Super Tuesday, because that's basically going to say everything. I mean, if you have candidates with 30%.
Okay, now it's gone, the echo.
That's gone.
Yeah, it was my fault.
Okay, no worries. Okay, so Alexander, what do they have on Bloomberg?
Well, I don't know that they have anything on Bloomberg. If anybody has anything on anybody, I'm going to guess it's Bloomberg has things on people, because he's got this huge system of data collection and data provision, which must mean that he is an extremely well-informed person about many things. That's what I would guess. I think that, ideology plays a big role in all of this. I think that he really doesn't like Bernie Sanders, and he doesn't like what Bernie Sanders represents. And he's very much committed to preserving the kind of status quo in America that he wants. And that basically means either anti-Trump Republicans, because he was a Republican when he was mayor of New York, or it means people who are not Bernie Sanders in the Democrat Party, which means essentially the Hillary Clinton type person. So that's, I think, where I suspect more the dynamic of this than anything else. That's my own guess. I mean, I'd be surprised if they have anything on Bloomberg, which we don't already know about. I mean, he's apparently said terrible things about women.
I mean, everything he's done is already out there.
I was going to say.
I don't think there's going to be, I mean, he's well known for his crass jokes and stuff like that. I mean, all right, he's almost 80 years old. So that means what? He was socialized in like the 1940s.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I don't think he's worried about that.
No.
I think it's an ego thing. I think it's a legacy thing. He wants to go down as the king maker because he isn't going to be president himself. I mean, the fact that he's been a Republican most of his life, I think demonstrates that. It has very little to do with ideology.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you guys, and not to defend Bloomberg in any way, but he had the kind of veneer of Trump. I mean, go ahead and say what you want. It's just that he didn't have very good reactions to it. But at the same time, say what you want about me. And he's looking at this. He said something on the stage that was really interesting, is that everyone was giving their hashtag for money. And he said, well, here's my hashtag, but I don't need any money. It was just like in your face. Okay. And I think that kind of explains it. You guys may be right, okay, but I don't see anything there. And because I fiddled around with my computer, I can't see you guys. So I'm going to drop out and I'm going to come right back in, okay?
Okay. Come back in. Come back in.
Yeah.
Okay. So Alexander, let's talk a little bit then about Assange.
Yeah.
And this strange, bizarre defense that's popping up that his attorneys are going to be running with.
Yeah.
We have a video on this coming
I'm back.
out. You back? You hear us?
Yeah.
You see us?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you hear that? We're going to start, we're going to shift gears and talk a little bit about Assange. All right. So Alexander, what do you make of this, this story? The mainstream media went crazy over it.
Absolutely.
I mean, to be honest, it really took me by surprise as well. I felt like a punch to the stomach in a way after I read the titles. And then you have to parse the story. You have to read through it. You have to go through what was said. We heard what Rohrabacher said. We heard what the White House said as well, their denials and what really happened. I mean, Dana Rohrabacher was pretty detailed as to what really did go on. But a lot of damage has been done here with the mainstream media and how it ran with it. And from what I understand, this is going to be the main defense that's going to be put out for Julian Assange. I mean, they're going to run with this narrative. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I know you're very much on top of this story. So what's going on here?
Well, I sincerely hope it's not their main defense, actually.
How could it be?
Well, could it? Well, I hope not, because I mean, frankly, it seems, I mean, I don't understand it. I don't understand why the lawyers have brought up this issue at all. Now, when we talked about this a short while ago, I mean, the theory that was being, that I suggested there was that, they were trying to argue that the lawyers would try and argue a concept which in English law is called estoppel, which is that there was some sort of deal done, or not, maybe not a deal, but there was some sort of promise made to Assange that if he denied it was the Russians, they would pardon him, and because he has denied that it's the Russians,
he has,
which he has done many times, that means that they should pardon him and that they shouldn't pursue the extradition. Well, an alternative view, which I'm now hearing, is that what is being suggested is that, in fact, he resisted the pressure from the Trump administration to say that it was not the Russians. And because of that, they're now coming after him, and that this is all proof that it's a sort of political campaign. That doesn't make any kind of sense, because of course he's denied that it's the Russians. So I just don't understand the rationale for this at all. I'm also, being told that, it's Balthazar Gazon, this Spanish lawyer who came up with this idea, and that it's all part of some complicated device to get Macron in France to give Assange asylum. Well, that's not going to work if that's the plan. I don't understand this. Now, I mean, I should make it clear that I think there's been some misreporting of this story by the media. I think the implication is that there was some sort of deal done, and that there was some sort of quid pro quo offered. I mean, I don't see that, but I don't see why the lawyers would want to bring up this issue at all. And by bringing up this issue, they've opened up the possibility for all these very bad headlines, which are going to do damage to Assange, because they're going to reinforce all sorts of stories that, have been circulating about Assange, that he's prepared to disclose facts about his sources, that he's had some kind of connections to the Russians, even though that's never what he said, and it's not what his lawyers are saying, that he's doing some sort of, or was open to doing some sort of deals with Donald Trump. So I don't understand what the logic of this is. And if someone can explain it to me, I would love to know. But I think that whoever is responsible, I think they've made a mistake, because there are so many other strong arguments, in fact, not just strong, overwhelmingly strong arguments that can be made, both to stop his extradition and against any criminal proceedings that are brought against him in the US. So why muddle things by bringing up this issue now? I really don't understand it.
To be really honest with both of you and our viewers here, I am completely befuddled by this.
Yeah.
I mean, I read this just before we went on. I did a headline check, and I started reading like Reuters and Yahoo News and stuff like that. I was just like, what?
Yeah.
I don't I was hoping Alexander Mercouris would understand it because I don't. I don't. And on top of it, this Rohrabacher guy, he had no authority. He visited as a private citizen. Okay, he was not a conduit. And I can remember when it happened. And I remember that I think Pompeo, he was head of the CIA. They had no interest in this and whatsoever. And I mean, I don't think anybody at the White House would take the call, certainly not on that topic. So, I mean, Rohrabacher, he was working as a maverick on his own. He has a perfect right to do that, okay? But I'm sorry, I have a hard time believing the chain of events right here.
No.
Did he visit Julian Assange's lawyers? Oh, I suppose so. I'm sure. I guess it's in the logs. Okay, but I mean, you have to be kind of, well, either naive or just simply stupid to kind of pretend that you're a cutaway for the president of the United States. I mean, that might even be illegal, you know. I don't know, the Logan Act or something like that. But I'm just really befuddled by it because, as Alexander Mercouris says, I mean, Julian Assange under international law has an ironclad case. Ironclad.
Absolutely.
Okay. Why they would go down this, and again, injecting the Russia narrative into it. Haven't we all had enough of that? Okay, enough of it. And now, you know, these unnamed sources and all that. Alexander, Christopher, you said, you know, basically, you know, asking what's going on here. It seems to me that on a lot of different fronts, the establishment is trying to take control of the narrative on multiple fronts simultaneously. All right. And they're getting some traction. But of course, people like us sit down and start, you know, going through the weeds and kind of just, you know, moving the mist away. I mean, there's no real story here. The real story is that in the case of Julian Assange, is that a man's human and civil rights are being grossly violated in broad daylight. Okay. And the scandal is here, there's so little reaction to it from the people that should be doing it, should be reacting. All right.
Yes. I agree with all of this. When I heard about this story, Peter, I assumed that this was completely made up. I mean, it was only when WikiLeaks started to confirm that the lawyers had actually made these submissions to the court that, you know, it was only then that I believed that it has happened, because it makes so little sense to me. I should say that I know by reputation some of the lawyers that are acting for Assange, and they are exceptional people of rock solid integrity. And it seems so out of character that they would run with this bizarre defense.
Well, the only thing I can think of, my first gut reaction is that maybe injecting this, trying to demonstrate that this is a political witch hunt. This is all about politics, okay? And I think that, having followed this from the very, very beginning, I think that's really in a foolish way, a diversion, distraction. Because sure, if you can prove that this is all politics, that is a trajectory that you can play, but I don't think it works. Okay,
no, it doesn't work.
I mean, if I was sitting around his legal team and someone said, you know, hey Peter, what, you know, you're defending Julian, what do you think if we do this and this, and, you know, trying to show it's just a political witch hunt, and I'd say I wouldn't go down that avenue, because I mean, it's been tried and failed. Okay, and you're going to be regurgitating a lot of things and mucking up the works, and you're going to lose sight of the justice this man needs.
Exactly. Peter, you're absolutely right. I mean, on 2 points. Firstly, it cannot work because Rohrabacher definitely was not a cutout for Donald Trump. So the underlying story, the underlying facts are, you know, don't support this defense strategy, whatever it is. And secondly, and I think, again, you're absolutely right here. The last thing you want to do if you're Julian Assange is bring up the whole Russiagate thing. It's radioactive. It's done him huge damage, actually. So keep away from it.
Well, actually, what his lawyers are doing is sticking it back on him. I mean, after the Mueller report and all of this ridiculousness, it was just laid as waste, okay? And why are you picking it up like gobs and gobs of it and putting it back on the man?
And the mainstream media, the deep state mainstream media that has been crucifying Assange is loving this. I mean, he's like feeding them.
Yes.
He's feeding them exactly what they want. It's so bizarre.
It's so bizarre. I mean, as I said, I truly don't understand it. And as I said,
well, but the political angle from the people that are persecuting and prosecuting him, it goes right. Isn't it amazing? Just dovetails with Roger Stone, because this lawyer's defense, erroneous defense of Julian Assange, and the conviction and sentencing of Roger Stone, that gives the powers that be, particularly the media, two valuable cards saying Russiagate really was real.
You are so right, Peter.
New York Times article as well, Alexander. Throw that in the mix, as Peter says, and now throw in these 5 anonymous sources. Boom.
Well, it did. Yeah. It's almost as if somebody in the legal team is trying to help the deep state, lend credence to Russiagate. So that, we've got this extraordinary decision with Roger Stone. I mean, can I just say something about Roger Stone? I mean, it vindicates the sentence, which is 40 months, which in my opinion is completely excessive anyway, because I don't think that prosecution should ever have been brought at all. But it's not the 9 years, the 7 to 9 years that the original prosecutors were seeking. So in a sense, that whole argument that, the prosecutors who resigned were in the right, well, that's buried. I mean, it's even less, I believe, than the 4 years that the Justice Department eventually did ask for. But the judgment of the judge, the sentencing decision by Judge Amy Jackson, is terrible. I mean, it completely supports the whole Russiagate narrative.
It should be done. The U.S. Senate should open impeachment hearings against that judge.
Well, absolutely.
That is judicial malpractice to the extreme. To the extreme.
Absolutely, and of course, I mean, she allowed a Democrat activist, a fervid anti-Trump Democrat activist, to be forewoman of the jury. I mean, this is extraordinary. It's awful judgment. Awful.
And let's step back, because we always try to be fair here. Yeah. Okay. Roger Stone was convicted of lying. Yes. All right. There should be consequences for that. Yeah. But the process was flawed. Yes. The result was flawed, and it's disproportionate. And it is, we all have in mind, and Alexander Christopher has already mentioned it, we have known liars out there living it up. Yes. All right. What was it? Lisa Page with her glass of wine. No. I mean, that is just, again, that's just spitting on deplorables. See, we can get away with it. Well, okay. Roger Stone, who is he? He's a braggart. He's a professional braggart. Okay, he's a professional troublemaker for people in power. He is a raging partisan. That's his job. That's what he's done for decades. And everybody knows it. Yeah. Okay, for what he did, I think he should have had time served as his house arrest. That would have been enough. Yeah. All right. Okay. But no, they needed the conviction to prove the hoax.
Exactly.
And Julian Assange, this legal team just gave these people a gift, from what I can understand. Yes. I mean, Alex, I will be taking advantage of your hospitality next week as we go to a conference on Julian Assange, and maybe we can get some answers from the legal team there. Because I'm just saying, look, I'm sorry, I'm not going through what Julian Assange is doing, but I've pulled my weight in the public sphere on this cause. I'm going to leave this country to go to the UK to continue my efforts. Okay, so I'm sorry to say, and I don't want to sound arrogant, but I need some answers.
Well, I think that
I want to understand what's going on.
I think
very quickly, Alexander, on Peter's point, a very quick question for you, and they can continue. Strictly speaking, if we are being fair, as Peter said, and I agree, we should be fair. He was convicted of lying, but can we not say from a legal standpoint, that the minute you had Tamika Hart, I believe was her name, does that nullify the trial legally speaking?
I mean, I think it should. I think, and
I'm not a lawyer, but it seems to me that this was an unforced error, and it just really has to be thrown out. I would even throw out the indictment at this point. Okay, I mean, I just completely throw it out. All right?
Absolutely.
And you know what? If it is thrown out, and I think that I've looked at some kind of the legal analysis from American legal experts. It's hard to do it. It's hard. It's possible. And if it is possible, then I would say, I'll tell you what's fair. Clapper, Comey, Lisa Page, and all the rest of them, they need indictments. And why don't we have a group trial, okay? And we'll see how that goes. You can lie to Congress and get away with it. You can lie to the FBI and get away with it. It depends on your politics.
Yes.
That's cut and dry. Yes. Cut and dry.
Yes. Anyway, I mean, I've heard that. I mean, I'm not familiar with the American legal process, but I would have said that was an unsafe verdict. I say that even though I agree with Peter, Roger Stone has committed criminal offenses. I mean, he did lie to the FBI and to Congress, and he did try and put pressure on a witness. All I would say about those two things is, firstly, the lies he told were in response to questions which should never have been asked of him, because quite bluntly, I mean, the whole investigation of him should never have really been started. It was all a complete nonsense, right?
Because it's because of the investigation that he got caught up into it. Okay,
exactly. I mean, he committed no crimes before he was investigated. I mean, this is what makes it.
Let me tell you what Roger Stone does. Okay, he calls you up in the middle of the night. Okay, and he's. I just got an email from so and so, and he says this. And what do you think about that? See, he's always fishing. He's looking for a reaction. He's trying to get under people's skin. He's an operator. Yeah. Does he do dirty tricks? Yep, that's his job. Okay, and should we condemn that? Maybe we should. But I mean, he was singled out because of his. I mean, I love Roger Stone, the way he dresses. That guy's got flair, okay? And he was always sticking it to power. And they turned around and found a way to have him thrown into this dragnet. Remember how they, indict everybody and let God figure it out approach? That's what they did. And Stone didn't cooperate.
No.
And you know what? Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves here. He will be pardoned. And Alex Christofora, I think he'll be pardoned very soon, not after the election. These people already hate Donald Trump. He has nothing to lose by it. He has a lot to gain by it because he sticks by his friends. He's loyal, all right? And Trump will win out with the base on this one. This is such an egregious case, such an egregious case. There's no political downside. The president has absolute, full, and complete pardoning power. He can even pardon himself if he wants to.
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. But there we go. I mean, it does seem strange that we've had this extraordinary judgment in Stone, which, as Peter and you, Alex, say correctly, is intended to give reality back to this utterly discredited Russiagate hoax. We've now had this extraordinary briefing to members of Congress by the intelligence community, saying that the Russians are again helping Trump to win the 2020 election, which is bizarre, by the way. I mean, we really do need to talk more about this. But I mean, that comes out, and we read all about it in the New York Times. And now someone at in Julian Assange's legal team seems to be reinforcing this narrative that is being constructed. It seems most odd to me.
Can you re-examine, Alexander? You mentioned, as you were explaining the Assange legal team, you mentioned the fact that maybe someone on his legal team is kind of cooperating with the swamp and the deep state. Is that a possibility? I'm sure he has a giant legal team at his disposal at this point.
He has a very incoherent legal team. Can I say one of the great problems? There are. I don't want to name names, but there is his English criminal defense team, who consists of tough-minded, very practical, very down-to-earth criminal defense lawyers. About their good sense, I have no doubt whatsoever. There's all sorts of other people who have attached themselves to this thing as like barnacles attach themselves to a ship. I don't know all of these people. I don't know that they're always giving a good advice or coming up with good ideas. And I think that knowing some of the people who are, if you like, on his core defense team, his English criminal defense team, I cannot imagine that they would have come up with an idea like this, because, as I said, it makes no sense. Unfortunately, some of the other people on the fringes, I think might do, and they might. Some of these people, because I don't, one doesn't know how well they've been vetted, they might have some connection with people who are on the deep state, without perhaps being conscious of it.
And there was that young kid in Iceland that turned on Julian Assange, remember, many years ago,
Yes.
So, I mean, we can't discount, they can get to you. They can get to you.
Exactly. And one doesn't quite know what's been going on, but my own sense is that this isn't someone being actually, working for the deep state consciously. I think it's somebody who's being far, over clever in a way that is actually extremely stupid.
Lawyers do that sometimes.
So I'm afraid they do. Lawyers can very easily get run away. And I'm going to say this. I don't want to criticize people who are, often people of goodwill. But if it is Baltasar Garzon, then I'm afraid, and some of the previous things he's been doing, I have felt sometimes that he's been, as we say in England, too clever by half. In other words, he does things that are too complicated. I mean, this idea of trying to persuade Emmanuel Macron, to grant Julian Assange asylum, I mean, that seems to me absolute nuts. And it's completely at cross purposes.
He would have to check with his donor, Michael Bloomberg. I don't think it's going to happen.
It's not going to happen. It's nuts. And as I said, it's completely at cross purposes again with what Julian Assange's, actual real legal team have been arguing in London. Can I say, I am familiar with those legal arguments, and up to now, they've always seemed to me extremely sound. This thing has come out of nowhere, and it took me completely by surprise. And when I saw it being endorsed by WikiLeaks, well, this completely threw me, I have to say.
Yeah, me too.
No.
I mean, I don't know. Is there? I don't want to go too much into the weeds on this. I mean, Alexander McCarris, is your understanding that the legal team and WikiLeaks are working really tightly together, or are they just kind of loosely connected? Okay, because WikiLeaks could say one thing, and his legal team might be saying something. I mean, is the media conflating these things too? Maybe there is a delineated difference here that they don't want to talk about, because it's always the sin of omission these days. Okay?
Yes. I mean, I have to be very careful in discussing what I know and what I guess. My sense is that there are an awful lot of people within this community that are trying to defend Julian Assange, and that there are some crossed wires, frankly. And I also get the impression that the legal team, as I said, the core English defense criminal legal team, are not always able to communicate with people like WikiLeaks as smoothly as they would like to. These are impressions. I want to stress that these are more impressions than actual, knowledge that I absolutely have. I mean, I've met these people, but I don't want to pry about defense strategies, which it's not my business to know. So I don't know what all the dynamics are. I don't want to speculate too much, but I'm willing to believe, I'm fully willing to believe that there are cross wires, that there are misunderstandings, perhaps there are even personality conflicts. That's not impossible. In fact, in this kind of world, it's entirely likely. Can I just say something? There's a lot of comparisons made with the Dreyfus Affair in France, which raged in the 1890s and early 1900s, and you saw an awful lot of that going on there too. There were a group of lawyers in the end who understood that there was something wrong and who struggled and fought for Dreyfus and eventually got him acquitted. And there were some people who were, in the intellectual world, who were also very disciplined in the way they supported Dreyfus. But there were also all sorts of other people who came in on the fringes, who came up with strange ideas, who came up with strange legal theories, who were trying to do all sorts of things, sometimes genuinely being helpful, but which created confusion, and very often actually proved counterproductive. This particular line of defense seems to me a counterproductive one. It's not going to help. It can only do harm. And I hope that it is not going to be the core defense that is going to be run in the court over the next few months, because if it is, then frankly, I have grave forebodings about the way the case will go, which would be a great shame, because my feeling up till this moment, until when I first heard about this, was that the weight of legal opinion was actually shifting in Assange's favor within the English legal world.
Assange does not have his full senses to him.
Oh, well,
we know that.
Yeah.
So could it be fair to say that his lawyers are taking advantage of that fact, and Assange really truly doesn't understand the gravity of the situation by moving towards this line of defense? Because we know he's been weakened considerably.
That's such a good point, Alex. Absolutely. It's such a good point.
And going down that route, guys, isn't it fair to say that by going down this road, he is speaking in very simple terms, he is helping out the same people that have been chasing him, especially the Dems and the DNC and this whole Russiagate hoax that has been trying to pin Assange and WikiLeaks to Russia, and then validate the entire Russiagate hoax. He's helping them, and he's hurting the man that can pardon him. Is that not true? Eventually.
Yes.
They're tying the bow on top of this. They're saying we were right after all. Okay.
It's a very dark path that he's going down. And then this New York Times article scares the crap out of me, because to me, I'm seeing dark clouds forming so that they could bring back Russia did it and Russiagate. And with it, like you said, Peter, you're tying a nice little bow, and the cherry on top is Hillary Clinton 2020.
Yes. Well, can I just say, to deal with your first point, the fact that he's been isolated, has not had much access to his actual core legal team, and that he is somebody who is vulnerable to manipulation. All of this is absolutely spot on, and we don't have to guess that because it's been made in legal submissions. This point has been repeatedly made, but in legal submissions and in medical submissions also, so that he is somebody who could be getting bad advice from someone and could be easily influenced by that bad advice, because he's not getting a proper
going back, being a clever by, was it Clever by half.
Too clever by half. That's an English.
I suppose it could work, but the circumstances are so devoid of what. My point is this: Julian Assange could maybe entertain that in an open court with CCTV and the public watching to prove that it's not true. But his trial will be in darkness, okay? We will never know. He will not even know the evidence. His lawyers won't even know the evidence is being used against him for conviction. So, I mean, if this turnaround of a super clever defense is being proposed, so they could actually prove that it's not true, which is kind of a clever way of doing it. But those circumstances will not be afforded him now at all. And so the extradition, and then the trial starts, and then they say, we get somebody, CIA Twitter, it's done. Okay, that's all we'll hear about. That's it, done.
My own experience, Peter, is that very clever strategies, very complicated legal strategies, nearly always unravel. And this one is going to unravel for exactly the reason that you said. It depends for it, even in theory, to work on Rohrabacher being a cutout for Donald Trump.
Not a reliable person, not a reliable enough person anyway. I'm sorry.
Exactly. I mean,
because Rohrabacher, let's let our viewers know. I mean, he was a big Russia booster. Okay?
Yeah.
He was a big Russia booster, okay?
Yes.
Which is perfectly fine, and I respect that. But the perception of that used in this in this political quagmire, it's all bad. It's all downside. I mean, 100% downside for Assange. Assange should not be using him. His team should not be using him as a credible witness.
Yes.
And that's not being disrespectful to the former congressman. Okay.
No.
I think if he ever watches this, he'll know what I mean.
Absolutely. I mean, besides, he's contradicting the whole argument. So, I mean, I can't see how this can fly. I mean, I really can't see, whatever is being attempted here, how it can work, given that I am sure that there was no quid pro quo offered. Why are we even talking about quid pro quos in this situation?
No.
I mean, it's like Ukraine Gate all over again in some ways.
That's what they want.
Well, exactly. So,
go with that, Alexander. That's what they want.
That's
what they want. And that New York Times article that dropped, I think, reinforces exactly where they're heading with this.
Yes.
I think they're showing us exactly where they're going to take us.
Yes.
To Russiagate. What is it? 3.0 now?
Well, exactly.
4.0 at this point.
Exactly. Well, exactly, because of course, realistically, it's the only way they can hope to win in November, because the very last opinion poll now gives Donald Trump a 50% favorability rating. So, and none of the Democrats at the moment look convincing. And if and I'm sure Peter is right, if Hillary Clinton stands again with Donald Trump as things are at the moment, she has no prospect of winning. So the only way you can have her win is by somehow, reconstructing Russiagate and getting
right.
the country.
Let's go with Alexander Christopher's theory. Okay, I'm not convinced of it yet. I want to wait till after Super Tuesday.
Yeah.
But what they're trying to do here, if I'm going to do this really broad brush theorizing right now, okay. Bloomberg goes in and mixes up the works, starts pushing the agenda of the DNC. The DNC is in his pocket, okay? They'll change more rules as we go down, if necessary, okay? Trump, a new Russia cloud comes into shore. This is what they're trying to do. Election day comes. I guarantee you, 30+% of potential voters for Bernie Sanders will stay home.
Yeah. Okay.
They will stay home. So that's why they need a new Russiagate to put a cloud over Trump again. And I'm going to go with Christopher here. If Hillary is in the back room waiting, okay. So they have to. They know they're going to lose the Bernie Sanders vote. Okay, they're not going to vote for Trump. They're going to stay home.
Yeah.
All right. And so that is going to be a huge deficit for Hillary to overcome. Now, what they need to do is what they're going after, and what they're doing is something you never do in politics. Never do this in politics. Never go after the voter.
No.
And they're doing it. This is a cardinal mistake. This is a cardinal mistake. At the very least, this will create an unbelievable political chasm in the United States, an unbelievable one. Trump, where was he? Was he in Nevada, right? Last day or so? I mean, I don't know how many people were in the stadium, but there was, up to 20,000 outside of the stadium. Don't annoy these people. Don't piss these people off. All right. And what they're doing is they're creating such a brew. And again, agreeing with Alexander McCurris in a different way, don't make it too complicated, because every single piece has to work if you want it to work. Yeah. And there's a lot of ifs right there. There's a lot of ifs. And so what it is it's great. I mean, chaos theory is great because the people that understand the chaos have the advantage, right? They create chaos because they understand how all the pieces work, all right? And everybody else is in the dark. Alexander Christopher started this off spot on. There's a lot of things going on, and a lot of them are connected, and they're all moving in the right direction for now.
For now.
Yeah.
Now. So, Alexander, going off of Peter's point, let's call this Russiagate 2020, which is what they're brewing, right? So you have Russiagate 2020, and the Hillary theory, to be completely fair, and I know you've had him on your show, Peter, Crosstalk. AJ Goodman has been saying this for a while now, and he's pretty spot on a lot of things he says, a lot of the predictions he makes.
He's
very good channel. Very good channel.
Very encyclopedic.
Exactly. Very good channel. We had Tom Lungo, and we did a video on Tom Lungo's article where he, put out the position of Bloomberg and how Bloomberg is actively working to create that brokered convention for Hillary Clinton. Russiagate 2020, Alexander, but this time, what do you have? You have Roger Stone in prison. So what's the media going to say? Oh, you see, Stone, he's in prison. He's in prison. He was part of the first Russiagate.
And if he's pardoned, it is covering up the Russiagate 2020.
Exactly. Boom, you hit it right there, Peter. And then if you get Assange in prison, and you get Assange, his legal defense team saying, this whole Russiagate hoax, and coming out with this defense argument as well, which plays into their hands. This new quid pro quo. Plus, you get a sentencing on Assange, and you say, oh, you see the guy that was working for Russia with WikiLeaks in order to get Trump elected in 2016. We not only did we get him, but we also have a quid pro quo.
That's right.
Quid pro quo number 2 after Ukraine Gate. We have this as well. Yeah, and you have an intel report, like the New York Times is dropping a new intel report that says they're already working on this. 5 anonymous sources. Exactly. And Adam Schiff is in the mix already.
Exactly. I mean, it's very bad. I mean, it's exactly what you said. It's the pricking of my thumbs. Something wicked this way comes type scenario. Can I just say one thing Donald Trump did do is that he did react very quickly to this New York Times article and this classified briefing. He sacked the acting director of National Intelligence, McGuire. He brought this absolutely terrible man, awful man, who's been the ambassador to Germany. I was recently in Germany, and well, we could say lots about him, but I mean, he's the most unpopular person there. But at least he does seem to be more loyal to Trump than other people who have been there before. And for the first time, it struck me that Donald Trump acted quickly and decisively in order to scotch this thing that is brewing up again, because it does look like Russiagate.
It's the Vindman twins.
Yeah.
This is what this is all about, okay? Because these guys don't stop. All right. They struck out. Fine. Let's get up to bat again. That's exactly what they're doing. And I don't know if it's too late now. I mean, really. I mean, what having a national security staff of what, 3 now? I mean, that's what it's essentially is going to take. And we've been saying this from day one of this administration. It's an HR problem.
Yes.
And they underestimated it. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, these are all these moving pieces here. I would just maybe adjust that scenario just slightly. If, and we're going to find out probably in the next couple of days, if the legal team for Julian Assange is actually going to go down this really bizarre path, then it's already done. I mean, you leave it. You don't, because that card has been, Roger Stone convicted. The Julian Assange's legal team brings back the Russia hoax. Okay, it's already been played. What happens to Julian Assange is immaterial to these people. They got the card they wanted, even if it's a false story. They're gonna. I mean, they keep repeating false stories over and over again. Even Bernie Sanders does it. Okay, much to my disappointment.
Yes.
So I mean, these cards are being played already. All right. What the media's already dyed this. Indelibly stamped, and they're going to move on. It doesn't matter if there's a correction or a change or, an annex or, it doesn't matter. It's done.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Exactly.
They got the title they wanted.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's bad. It's bad all the way around. It's bad for the Bill Binney theory.
Yes.
That he's put out there, which is very logical, makes sense.
With beeps.
It's bad for SR. I'll say the name, and then this video is going to probably get taken down, but everyone knows it's bad for SR. And when what happened there, I mean, this line of defense, it's going to be bad for Assange. It's bad for Trump. It's bad all the way around. I think you're right, Peter. The only people it helps are the exact people that started Russia Gate 1, Ukraine Gate, and now this latest narrative.
Exactly.
That's who this helps. And doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
And what they're trying to preempt is the Durham reports and things like that. They're trying to get ahead of the curve.
Yes.
Okay. They're trying to get ahead of it.
Yes.
And that also plays into this demonization of Bill Barr.
Yes.
Which they had to be overjoyed that Bill Barr, and I could understand it, saying, tweets are the president's tweets are, hindering my job, which they are, Mr. President, they are. But when he made that statement, we know now that he already had contacted the White House saying, I'm going to go on ABC News or whatever it was, and he's going to talk about it. And they were giving it a heads up. They want to say that there's a crisis in the relationship. There certainly isn't, okay? But I'm absolutely convinced that Barr, whatever he wants to accomplish before January of next year, and then he's leaving. I don't think he didn't need this job. He didn't want the job. And I think he wants what his mission is to clean out the FBI and DOJ. That's what I think his core mission is.
I agree.
To clear this out. Okay. It's not a defense of Donald Trump. No. He was Attorney General before. He knows what's wrong in that building. He knows what's wrong with the FBI and the DOJ. And I think because his commitment to those institutions, he wants to clean it up. He wants that to be his legacy. Come hell or high water. What are you going to do to him? He's one of the best paid attorneys in the United States. Okay. I mean, his reputation precedes him, and he has got an armor so thick that he's not going to. The only person that irritates him is Donald Trump. Okay? Everything else, you look at the guy, he's like a tank. Get out of his way.
Yeah.
Stephen NVA, Binney is not a theory. Binney is forensic evidence. True. A theory, I say theory, but definitely he's definitely an expert, the foremost expert.
He's a very good expert.
Yeah, he's the foremost expert.
I'm very proud that he was on Crosstalk. I'm very pleased about it.
Absolutely, we agree with you, Steve. If I said theory, I mean he provides excellent evidence. That's
Absolutely.
True. All right, Russia, Turkey, Syria. Guys, hit that like, share the channel with everybody. I don't know how many people are watching this, but Ann, I know in the chat you're keeping this up to date. I think it was at about 1,800 the last I saw. Thank you though, Ann, for letting us know how many people are watching now. And also, guys, Duran Shop, PayPal, Patreon, Subscribe Star. We need your help. Every video we put up is pretty much getting demonetized all the time. So your help is very much appreciated. Let's switch gears and continue to talk about Russia, but in a different light. What's going on in Syria? And in Idlib,
Mm.
are we heading to war, some sort of conflict between Turkey and Russia? It seems like it.
Well, I've just heard, just before we started, I'm not heard, I mean, it's been confirmed that Putin and Erdogan are talking again this evening. So let's see what they can come up with. My own view, and this is very, very, very tentative, is that Erdogan has been bluffing, and that his bluff was called. He did launch this attack, or rather there was this attack launched with these jihadi fighters who were backed by Turkish artillery. The Russian Air Force intervened, and the attack was pushed back. And then the Russian military apparently contacted the Turkish military and told the Turkish artillery to stop firing, and they stopped firing. And then apparently Erdogan contacted the US and asked for Patriot missiles to be provided. I gather there is no chance of that happening in any possible time frame that would make this, that would change the situation in Idlib. And it probably wouldn't change the situation in Idlib anyway. And it seems the US military are not very keen on going down that route in the first place. So I think that the fact that Putin and Erdogan are speaking this evening is a good sign. So I'm moderately more hopeful than I was a few days ago. Always the problem is that Erdogan himself is so volatile and so unpredictable that you can never be completely sure. But that's Erdogan, that's how he gains leverage. He always gives the impression that he's able to do anything, that he's able to smash, bring the whole temple down on everybody's heads. And then that's the way that he extracts concessions. He's very skilled at this, but it does make him difficult to deal with.
It's the madman theory, okay? Yeah, it's it. That's perfectly him. Look, Erdogan knows that there's way too much at stake here, way too much, okay? And it's not about Idlib, okay? It's about Turkey pivoting its geopolitical interests away from NATO without leaving it. Actually, a very positive turn towards Russia. He knows that there's no way that Russia and Turkey need to get into any kind of shooting war at any level. This is bluffing. It gives you white knuckles. It irritates you. This thing is going to be resolved. But the thing is that Erdogan doesn't want to admit that he hasn't kept his word of ending this in Idlib, okay? Because the Syrian Syrian army is making progress, and it's slower than we had hoped. I would have hoped it would have been over by the end of last year, but it's not. And it's slowly but surely. And there's one thing we have to make this clear. Turkey, if we go 1-to-1 Turkey and Syria, well, Turkey has a very large military. How effective it is after all these purges, I don't know. Okay, I would have to say that its expertise and skill levels have been compromised to one degree or another. But the real equation is: does Turkey really want to take on Russia and Iran at the same time? Really?
No.
When you have this expedition going on in Libya now? No, this is bluster. It is bluff. We have to take it seriously, but it will be resolved. And Putin is a good interlocutor. Lavrov is the greatest, one of the greatest diplomats in modern history. We're going to get through it. Everybody's going to get through it, okay? Hopefully not the terrorists in Idlib. I hope they don't get through it, okay? But Mr. Erdogan, you tied your fate to them. You have to figure it out. And we've been talking about this for about a year now.
Did they miscalculate Putin and Lavrov with Erdogan?
I think that they were expecting that he would come to some kind of arrangement with them over Idlib. They waited a whole year, and they were. I think they finally lost patience at the end of December, which is why they gave the Syrian military the green light to move in the way that it did. And I think that Erdogan, for his part, didn't get a clear message, or at least he didn't accept the message that the Russians were giving him. He also thought the Russians were bluffing. So there was a mix-up in messages on both sides. Of that, I don't think there's any doubt.
Well, what they want, what Erdogan wants now, what his hobby horse is right now, is he wants the Russians to agree to some kind of spheres of influence in northern Syria. And I'll tell everybody here, Russia doesn't want to stay in Syria. No, it doesn't. That's not the way the Russian military operates now. Okay, it's Putin's generals say, "What do you want, sir? What's your time frame and how many people? I mean, which people and how should we eliminate them? And then when do you want us home?" Because that's how they think. They think that way. They don't believe in mission creep and all that. And that probably irks the Russian military, is because they want clearer direction, because we were told that your Turkish interlocutor said this, this, and this. Well, it's not happening. And we have a mission. And that the agreement is not being met. I mean, the Russian military is not like the American military in search of a mission, okay? That's not how they operate.
No.
And so that's the frustration on the Russian part, because they don't want to, they want to have as small as possible footprint in Syria, because that's not their mission. They're not foreign intervention driven at all. Okay, the military doctrine isn't designed that way.
I agree. I completely agree with that. But as I said, I think it will be sorted out. And it is a good sign that Erdogan and Putin are talking this evening. So we'll see what they come up with. Putin's been very busy, by the way. He's been on the diplomatic front. He's also been meeting with another difficult character, who is President Lukashenko of Belarus. So he's gone from one man who's very, very difficult to deal with to another man who's extremely difficult to deal with. I mean, he must have the patience of Job, but I suppose that's his job.
All right. Okay, guys. So before we get to the super chats, let's wrap it up with coronavirus.
Yeah.
Is this going to bring the Chinese economy to its knees? Is this going to bring the world economy to its knees? This thing is really ramping up.
Well,
it's getting scary.
Yes.
In my opinion, I think it's getting very scary.
What I understand has happened is that the actual infection rates in China outside Hubei province have started to tail down. Hubei province is an issue. And as I said, I come back to what I was saying some time ago. I think that the mortality rates from this disease are not particularly high. The problem is the Chinese government reacted in this extraordinary fashion of, imposing this massive quarantine across the entire country. And that is it's brought Chinese economic activity to an almost complete stop at the moment. Now, if this thing resolves within any kind of reasonable time frame, the Chinese economy can start running up, moving back into production again, and you would see very quickly all the lost production made up again. But if this continues for very much longer, it will start to affect supply chains, not just in China, but in India, in the Pacific region, and ultimately, by the way, in Europe and the United States.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a difficult story because it's been so politicized for political purposes, and I do my best to keep up with it, but politics keeps intruding upon it, and it's clouds, I think, sound and rational judgment about it.
Yes.
The interesting thing, I think, as a result of all of this, is that President Xi, it's his legacy he's very concerned with here, and I think it's going to there'll be a crackdown to some degree or another, and they may not recover from that. A new, more forceful way of ruling. It's not one big prison camp that, like, everybody in the West likes to say. No. It's not, okay? No. Not at all. But this is good. The heads are going to roll.
Yes. Because
people in authority, and this is the implicit deal that the Chinese Communist Party has with the Chinese people, is that we will take care of things. We will make you prosperous. We will make you safe. And they're left short, left wanting right now in that degree. And so when this is all said and done, and it will be done, that it will be resolved. But then the day after, there's going to be introspection. And there's going to be who are the culprits? Who let us down? Who let the party down? Who let President Xi down? And I wouldn't want to be in that pecking order, all right? Because they're looking at that right now. That's why, in some respects, some people, and I think rightfully, I think you could describe it as an overreaction with command and control. But China's in the spotlight. And the first time we talked about this in this podcast, that's exactly what I said. Okay, it's a reputational issue for China as well. And the more transparent they are, the better they are, better off they are. Okay, and so this will be a very interesting test case. And number one, how to control the message and actually contain an infectious disease. Okay, and do they have the ability to do that? And I'll tell you again, when this is all said and done, a lot of people are going to study what the Chinese did, because it's going to happen again.
Yes. As I understand it, Peter, there is already a purge underway in Hubei province, which is the center, the place where it began. And if you go to the Chinese media, the Chinese central government is already making it very clear that it blames the regional authorities in Hubei province for the fact that the virus was allowed to spread there for about 2 months without the Chinese government, the central government, being made aware of the fact. So you're going to see undoubtedly severe consequences for some of the people in Hubei. And if you know anything about China, severe consequences can be
severe,
extremely severe. Exactly. So that is one thing. I think that,
are they being made fall guys, though, Alexander? Maybe it's the reverse.
So.
Maybe they're being made.
So. No, I don't think so, because it's consistent with also what we're hearing from the World Health Organization and from the way this thing seems to have spread. I mean, as I understand it, there was this disease which began almost certainly, I increasingly discount this theory, by the way, that it's an escaped biological weapon, that it began in this fish market where all these animals, were being kept, that it spread through.
You're going to get a lot of flack, Alexander, for that.
I know,
I'm just preparing you.
I know, I understand that, but I have my opinion. And by the way, this is not a favorable opinion to the Chinese government. Can I just make the point? Because biological weapon, in some ways, would be an awesome thing, but if you can't maintain basic hygiene controls in your fish markets. And by the way, I have been to Chinese food markets and was very disturbed by some of the things that I saw there. So I would say that is actually, in some ways, an even more critical thing. Yeah?
I went through. I remember with Anya, my editor, she wanted to buy some really exotic, really interesting Chinese teas. And believe it or not, everyone, in Beijing, there's the tea district. And so we went on the subway to the tea district, and it was pretty far out from the center. And we came across some food, like fast food stands and stalls and stuff like that. And I said to her, I'm not eating that. No way.
No way. Exactly. So,
it's very, very true. That's and I'm sure Alexander McKeer saw the same thing. I saw 5-star, 10-star stuff. Unbelievable quality and hygiene and cleanliness. Yes. And then you saw it actually smells out.
Well, I know, absolutely.
Yeah, the extremes.
Exactly, the extremes. And in what is now actually a pretty developed country, and Wuhan, where this has all happened, is by no means, a sort of medieval place. This should not be happening.
Right.
And so it should not be happening.
And the Chinese authorities are responsible. Absolutely responsible.
Absolutely. So this is not saying that it's not a biological weapon. People are, if they want to argue with that, that's fine. But it's not a pro-Chinese thing to say that they have completely lost control of basic food hygiene in some of their most modern cities. And of course, there's a point to remember about this, because China is now a modern country, because people are able to move around so fast, if there is a major crisis in a food market in Wuhan, it extends everywhere, it just spreads, which is why you have this extraordinary quarantine system. So the Chinese have brought it on themselves by the way in which they mishandle food safety and food health issues. So
I can't imagine.
No.
Again, and if everybody wants me to criticize China, I certainly will. Okay,
Yeah.
If this disease had been lingering for weeks or longer,
Yes.
without proper command and control being made aware of it, that is gross negligence.
Absolutely.
Okay? And if that were to happen in a Midwestern town in the United States or in a village in Italy, the same heads would roll, okay?
Yes.
All right, so, I mean,
Yes.
it's the command and control issue, and China has to reckon with it, okay? And it has to take 100% full responsibility for what has happened here. Because
Absolutely.
they want absolute control, then you must have absolute responsibility.
Absolutely correct. That's entirely right. But I do think that it did start in this fashion in Wuhan. And I think that the other thing to understand about China is that because it's the nature of the system there and the culture, there was a reluctance by the local authorities both to admit that there was anything wrong and to pass on that information to the central government. And
I know the mindset. I know
exactly.
it so well.
Exactly.
I lived in communist Eastern Europe. I know
Yes.
exactly how it works.
Yes.
I mean, I'll give you a small example. Many years ago, there was the metro bombing at Parco Tori Metro, where RT was at one time. And you know, when things started going wrong, you have people in the chain of command. And so just imagine you have this 60-year-old woman, she's getting close to her pension age, and somebody say, there's something wrong, shut the whole system down. And you know what she's gonna say? I'm not important enough to shut the system down. I need someone to tell me to do it. I'm afraid I'll get in trouble if I shut the whole system down.
Yes.
Which she should have done.
Yes.
But this is where the command and control breaks down, okay?
Exactly.
You need competent people that have to say, you have to make a split second decision and say, do it. Hell with the consequences. But I've lived in cultures where people know, I'll wait for the boss. Or maybe it'll go away.
Exactly.
Or maybe someone else will decide. I don't want to be the decision maker.
Exactly.
That happens, okay? I mean, that also happens with, Russia has a very bad record with fires in public buildings because they don't do the correct inspections, okay? And one person says, well, you'll let this next guy take care of it, he'll take care of it. And then nobody does anything and then people die, okay? Exactly. That's criminal negligence.
Negligence, exactly. So I don't, to come back to the question, I don't think that the Chinese central government is scapegoating particular people in Hubei. But that doesn't mean that the Chinese system comes out well from this affair, which is a different question. And of course, I think it's because they know that they've not come out well from this affair that they have reacted in this overwhelming fashion, putting most of the country in quarantine, throwing resources at this problem in this stupendous scale, which of course in a sense is also feeding into more problems because it means that manufacturing production is being slowed for a disease where, by the way, and I think this is an important thing to reiterate, the mortality rate has not so far been very high. I know this is also going to be challenged, but it is true. I saw comparisons, and these are comparisons. I mean, I looked them up. There are comparisons from American medical, the American medical authorities. There've been 14,000 deaths from flu in the United States already during this current season. which is many more than have died so far from the coronavirus. Now, I don't want to make too strong comparisons, but it doesn't seem as if the coronavirus is a particularly, catching it is going to kill you. The vast majority of people who have died from contracting it have been over 65 and have had health issues already. So, that's not to discount the danger from it. It's merely to say.
But that's the case with the normal flu as well.
Well, there you go. Exactly. Yes.
So it's such a divisive.
No, the thing is
topic.
that
I mean,
I just really want to reiterate here.
Yes.
Is that because it is China,
yes,
it's going to be politicized, it's going to be weaponized, and the Chinese, well, if they didn't know before, they know now this is how it's going to happen.
Yes.
All right. I mean, it's very interesting. I was thinking before we did this podcast here, how the Democrat, the left, they want to continue Russiagate, but it's on the right. It's the GOP that wants to turn their attention to China. It's very interesting that division right there. Okay,
yes.
Both of them want an enemy, and they've chosen different ones. Okay, first of all, it's to shame the Chinese. They enjoy doing that. They want to punish the Chinese, but then by punishing them, they punish their own supply chains. We'll find that out real soon. Okay, that's why I try to be very circumspect when talking about this, because there's so many political elements that are injected into it, and I know all of the conspiracy theories too, and I'm not going to entertain them because they're not convincing to me.
No.
Okay. I heard some amazing ones over the last few days. Okay, I'm going to remain mum on them until someone can give me some evidence.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly. But as I said, I mean, if the thing is because the Chinese government lost control of the situation.
Well, there is the perception that the Chinese government lost control. Well, that's what I'm getting at.
So they have carried out this overwhelming response, and this overwhelming response is leading to more problems because it means that your manufacturing is now at a standstill, and your economy is also at a standstill, and that's obviously going to have an effect in China, and it's going to have an effect on the whole world too. So it will be a bizarre paradox actually if in a few weeks or months' time, we saw the coronavirus thing ending. And actually, I think that's more likely what will happen. I think that, already there's signs that the epidemic is tailing off, but that the economic consequences in the end turn out to be much graver.
Yep.
All right. Let's get to super chats, but let me just read you guys a real quick sample of what people are saying in the chat with Corona, because it's really interesting to see everyone's different opinions. And absolutely, Alexander, your opinion is very respected, and it makes sense. But everyone has a different view on this, and I think going off of what you guys said, a lot of the fault does lie with China and the way they've PR'd this. They haven't been very good on the PR side of
I
things.
said that the first time we talked about
whatever the reasons are, how this thing started or whatever's going on, they haven't been managing the media side of it very well at all. That's my opinion.
Go check back. What did I say? They needed to have a media task force that reacts to every single comment, every single video, and explain them or shoot it down or whatever. I said that the first time we talked about that, and they didn't.
And they didn't.
Yes.
And so you have comments, anyone eat a bacon dog from a certain part in LA, rather eat McDonald's. level 4 lab, just 20 miles out in the burbs. Yes, that's true. One word, COVID-19, take it. That's the registered name. What about the other COVIDs? Up to 19 at least. Let's see. The shittiest bioweapon ever. Kills maybe 2 or 3% of infected. Give me a break. I think now that I said shittiest, we're definitely demonetized now for sure. Anyway, Wuhan, first smart city, 5G rolled out in November 2019. Coincidence? Food safety is one thing. Level 4 lab, an entirely different thing. Bill Gates, question mark. So, I mean, everyone's trying to figure out what's going on.
And this always happens when you have a lack of transparency and people take it upon themselves with a goodwill, I believe, and try to figure it out. Because you know why? Why are people watching us? Because they don't trust the mainstream media, okay? And if people have, again, if you have you demand to have all authority, then you're made responsible for everything, okay? That's the downside of power vertical. The Chinese have learned the hard way on this one.
Yeah. 640 confirmed on the Yokohama docked vessel from 1 infected out of 3,700, but only half have been tested. So, I mean, yeah, there's absolutely a lot of people trying to figure out what's going on. And I'll say from my experience, you're going to see it when you travel as well, Peter, you go through the airports and people are worried. You see, I would say roughly 30% of everybody I saw traveling on the plane or through the airport was wearing a mask.
Absolutely. So I saw
about half of the people working inside the airport, whether they were working the food stands or anywhere else, they were wearing masks.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. So it's, you see it. It's affecting people's state of mind. There's no doubt about it.
At RT, people are wearing masks.
Yeah. There you go. So coronavirus, we'll be following the story. It's an incredibly fascinating story, and we're trying to make as much sense of it out of you guys. So let's go to the super chats and we'll wrap up this live stream. From Etic Boxin, 50 NOK super chat. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you very much for that super chat. From Kevin Ross, $10 super chat. We're already demonetized. Let's hope we don't get the platform for this super chat, but it says Seth Rich. Okay. From Valley S, a $20 super chat. Thank you very much, Valley S, for that super chat. From Asavet MD, a $20 super chat. Thank you very much for that super chat. From Brave New Perth. Where is it? Brave New Perth. $5 super chat. What actions will the German government take in response to the Hanau attack? What's the political future for the AfD? Another interesting story. That attack.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting.
Very happened.
Indeed, so very interesting story. I think it was the day before yesterday. I've actually just come back from Germany. I was in Berlin and I spent several days there. It was very interesting to see the sort of mood, because if you go away from Western Germany into the sort of to Berlin and into the former Eastern regions, there is a cultural shift, actually, a bigger one than one might expect. I very much get the sense that the days of Angela Merkel are now really numbered. I've said this many times before, but I've never said this so strongly after coming back from Germany itself. I think the CDU party, her own party, have basically now realized that they have to remove her, because a successor cannot establish him or herself whilst Merkel remains chancellor.
Didn't her successor stand aside?
Yeah, that's right. Yes,
Yeah.
she did, because she couldn't establish any kind of authority, because Merkel was still there contradicting her. And at the same time, so I think they understand that. At the same time, there is an enormous degree of tension within society because of this huge decision that she made in 2015 to admit all of these people. But at the same time, and I have to say this, there is a very, very strong feeling within Germany of complete resistance to any kind of return to the sort of ideology of the 1940s.
Oh yeah.
So and this was also again made very obvious to me. There, and that was obviously very true in Berlin. It's also, I think, very true in the eastern regions also. So when I'm reading in the media about how people in Eastern Germany are turning to the extreme right, if by the extreme right people are talking about neo-Nazi sentiments and things of that kind, I don't see that at all. That's absolutely not my impression. There are, unfortunately, always in every country, very dangerous, very violent, and very unstable people who are circulating around and will do terrible things. And I think that was what happened in this case.
All right, Peter, any comments on the...
No, agreed.
Okay. From Aussie, Doggy, and Minnie, $5 super chat. Thank you very much. From Imre Kalman, a £20 super chat. Thank you very much, Imre. From No One Jag, $9.99 super chat. Peter, what is that contraption on your left?
You mean right here?
Yeah.
That's a watch winder. That's two of them.
Two of them.
Mhm.
And you can wind the watch mechanically if you want, but by the movement on your wrist, the mechanism, gravity, when it goes around, it winds it for you. So I do have calluses on my index finger and my thumb from winding watches. This saves me a lot of work.
Can I just ask you a question, Peter? Is it true in your experience that automatic watches keep better time than manually wound ones? Because I've been told this by so many people, and I just wondered whether you who have this big watch collection, whether that's also been your experience.
It depends on the watch, you know. I mean, really super expensive watches sometimes don't keep very good time. They look really well. And then there's some novelty watches that I have that I really like to keep perfect time. So I know all of my watches very well, and I know which ones I have to keep an eye on, okay? Most mechanical watches in Madewell keep extremely good time, okay? One of the things that I've experienced, though, from my collection of pocket watches, and I actually talked to some people in the UK about it, is that I would buy a watch and I would wind it and be working fine. And then after about 4 or 5 days, it stopped working. And I'd be really upset. And you know, I'm really busy. And so I think, okay, I'll send it back to them, you know, I'll take care of it. They're good guys. 4 or 5 days later, it starts working again. Why? The metals inside the watch are adjusting to the weather, okay? Ever very so slightly. They're just adjusting to it, to the atmosphere, to the how far north I am, because these alloys come from a different place, okay? Not from Russia. And so a number of them suddenly started working again. And they found that really fascinating. And they agree with my theory as well, all right? They were just getting used to where they were, all right?
That's interesting.
Interesting.
Very interesting. All right, from Winterwind89, $5 super chat. There are videos coming out about local party leaders saying the doctors, will get in trouble if they keep finding cases.
Yeah.
Can you trust the bleep bleep?
You know, see, that's just the thing. I mean, you know, let's go back to the war on the Donbass, okay? There were people that were making videos trying to support one side or another. And I remember watching them on YouTube. And of course, there would be ones I'd want to use in my program, but every single time, and I mean 100% time, I never used any of them because I can't verify them.
Yes.
I can't verify if they're true.
Yes, what I will say is this. There have been many reports in the Chinese official media about doctors having been silenced by local officials in Hubei. And this has been a widely reported story within the Chinese official media. I haven't seen videos, but I have seen reports about this. What does, of course, happen is that you get reports in the media, the Chinese state media, and then people may be coming along and making videos which are not real, but which are intended to cash in and give color to this kind of story. So you get these very complicated things. You've got to be so careful.
Okay, and you know what? I'm very wary of using these videos because certainly there can be a political intent. I mean, you have this Chinese nurse crying and saying that, you know, people are dying and they're blaming the doctors. Well, where was that filmed? Was it filmed in Los Angeles? Yeah, Hong Kong, Taiwan.
Yes.
I don't know.
Exactly.
I just don't know. But I'm not dismissing the fact that a nurse could actually say that and have good reason to. I'm not saying that is impossible. How do I know? I can't know that.
Exactly.
But when someone is feeding me videos and they're giving me subtitles, well, is she really saying that? I don't know. I don't speak Mandarin Chinese.
Don't go far. Remember that video by ABC News, Peter, where they had they said it was a strike in Syria, but it was
in North Carolina,
or Kentucky or something. Yeah, some gun show or something like that in Kentucky. Yeah. And ABC said that's what's going on in Syria or Libya. I forgot.
Yeah, Syria.
So I mean, yeah.
The Kurds. Right?
Yeah, that was just 2 months ago.
Yes, well, I mean, I also remember protests in Athens, which rather a protest in Moscow, which was actually filmed of a protest in Athens.
Yes,
with palm trees.
they couldn't tell the difference between Greek letters and Cyrillic letters. Those are the real smart ones in cable TV.
Yes.
Acropolis, Red Square. It's all the same.
Right.
All right. So Asavet MD, $7 super chat. Thank you once again, Asavet, for that super chat. From Greg Wilson, $20 Canadian dollar super chat. Thank you very much. Greg. From John Ashley Smith, $5 Canadian dollar super chat. The process is known as, quote, the vertical stroke helped the spread. I think that's in reference to coronavirus, John? The vertical stroke?
Yes.
I'm not sure, but if you can get on the chat and maybe expand on that a little bit, we'll try to discuss it. Maybe we can answer it. Maybe we can't, but the vertical stroke. Okay, from Donnie Chappelle, $25 super chat. Good job today. Thank you very much, Donnie. From John FC, DKK 100, how come NATO have not signed the opportunity to evoke the Musketeer Oath of the NATO alliance, giving NATO the pretext to support Turkey in the military operation in Syria?
Yeah,
Assad must go off the table.
Yes, this is the Article 5 thing, from the Musketeers, one for all for one and one for all, that sort of thing. I think that what would happen, I think the Turks did previously, by the way, try to get NATO support via Article 5 when they shot down the Russian bomber, the Su-24, and they found that a lot of the NATO countries, including France and Germany, were completely unwilling to come to their aid, despite the fact that they were all part of NATO. So I think that would be exactly what would happen again. I think the idea, remember, I was in Germany recently, the idea that Germans would support a NATO adventure in Idlib province because Erdogan got himself into trouble. I mean, that's for the birds. I mean, it would never happen. I'm sure the same would be true in France. I suspect it would be true the same would be true in England also. So it's just not going to happen. I mean, this isn't a possibility at all.
Peter from Nemo asks, is a great question. Does Russia regret the sale of the air missile defense system to Turkey now?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think that this is just an episode. I think it's the Russian diplomats have baked this in, that we have a volatile character that we're dealing with. There's going to be some ups and downs. Erdogan certainly doesn't regret it. That's why I think there's so much at stake. There's energy relations. There's bilateral trade. Turkish firms are heavily involved in building construction in Russia. The consumer market is really very big too. Tourism. Erdogan isn't going to piss this all away. No. He wants more time to figure out his mess. Okay, and the Russians are saying, look, we had a deal, and Assad has his agenda, and we have to move it along. And we're not going to go to war with each other. We're not going to shoot at each other. Come on, we're not going to do that. But remember, everything Erdogan does is for his base. He doesn't care really about international opinion. It's about his base. And so he's still, has to make sure he keeps his base in line, all right? And he wants to show that he's on the world stage. He's talking to Putin. He's talking to NATO. He's threatening these people. That's the kind of presence he wants to create, and he's succeeding in doing it. And he'll find a way out.
Yes,
he'll find a way out, and he'll say, "See, they conceded to my demands." Why? But he always does. But he always does.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I've seen the news reports. Like, always take them seriously, always. But this is more for public consumption.
Yes,
Erdogan's in a really sticky wicket here, and he's got to find a way out, and he knows it.
No.
That's why the bluster. Okay.
Right. From Gloria Polito, $20 super chat. Thank you very much, Gloria. From John, once again, regarding the vertical stroke that he mentioned, it's to say it's hiding problems, to hide problems up the chain of command.
That's right. Yeah, I think that is exactly right. I think it's exactly what happens. People do try to hide problems from the people up, further up the chain of command. Yeah, no question.
All right. Thank you, John, once again for that super chat and that comment. From Danny Gonzalez. Interesting question. Is the U.S. moving nukes from Incirlik to Poland?
I've heard this story. Of course, the US is never going to give a public account of what it's doing with its nuclear weapons. But I've heard this story. It would not surprise me if it was true, actually, because the Americans don't trust Erdogan either. So they would. It's possible that they move those nukes out, but we don't know, and they're not saying.
Would we ever find out, or?
Yeah, I don't think we'd ever find out. And if they were being moved to Poland, they won't stay there for very long at all. Okay? Because the Russians will find out about that and they will blow a fuse. Okay.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Oh, yes, they would.
That would be a big.
It would be a big.
Well, we're talking about 3 minutes now, guys.
Yeah.
3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I would also add, for what it's worth, not that these agreements seem to be worth anything, that NATO and the US gave a commitment that they would not station nuclear weapons in countries like Poland. Of course, we all know that that's exactly what they're going to do eventually, or at least planning to do, or some people in Washington are going to planning to do, and that they don't care about those agreements. But certainly, if the Russians find out about this, which they will, if they haven't already, they will complain, and they will complain strongly.
Okay, and the final super chat from Fiona Whelan, a $10 super chat. It is for Peter's puppy.
Where are you? Oh, you went to sleep.
Come claim your money.
They went to sleep. Buddy, people want to talk to you. You want to come up? You want to come to Pop? There you go. That's right. Come on. There you go. There you are. Come to Pop. Good guy. Good guy. There you go.
All right.
That's Buddy.
There's the super chat puppy.
There we go.
All right. Thank you, Fiona.
Close up. Get a close up shot there. There you go. Who's that? Who's that?
All right. And on that note, we will definitely end this live stream. Okay, guys, thank you very much for everyone who joined us on this live stream.
And if I can just interject here, I'm not making any promises because it'll be a busy schedule, but I think next time we see a live chat, I'll be sitting next
I was just about to say.
Oh, sorry.
No, go on, because I wanted to put you guys on the spot by saying that.
Go ahead, you finish it.
That next week, hopefully, we will get a live stream. Hopefully, we'll get videos and a live stream from a very cool event. So, Peter Alexander, if you guys want to plug the event that you're going to be, I know you plugged it in the beginning, but if you want to plug it again for our viewers, and hopefully we can get a live stream with both of you guys together, as well as some videos. You guys together, maybe I don't know if you can take videos of the event. I don't know. You guys know better.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sure we can. I mean, we got our cameras, so I think we will. But it's going to be a momentous event. It's going to be a momentous week. We're very, very excited here in London to be hosting Peter Lavelle, who's going to be here. So he's going to see this library as it actually is, and he'll be meeting my dogs too. So that'll be hugely exciting, and of course, all kinds of people from all over the world are coming, and it's all related.
And Joe Lauria is already in London.
Absolutely.
What's the event?
So the event is the start of the trial of Julian Assange is coinciding with a whole lot of events that are being organised in order to support Julian Assange. And Peter, do you want to say more, because you're going to be chairing one of them?
They've asked me to do a use the crosstalk format, so we'll have a panel, and Gregory has asked me to give maybe like a 15-minute talk. It's going to be unscripted. I'm not going to write anything. I'm just going to actually kind of explain how a small boy from a small suburb of Denver, Colorado, made it all the way to Moscow and now to London to talk about freedom of speech, and from a conservative point of view. And I have to push back a lot. I mean, I I was on George Galloway's program, Sputnik program yesterday. That'll be on air on Saturday. And, you know, he started sniping at me for teaching Western civilization. And I know that's not very popular to talk about right now, that, you know, these survey courses should be shut down because they're racist and misogynist, all this stuff. You know, I really like to push back and say the whole ideal of the idea of the integrity and dignity of the human being came from the West. I don't care what you say in return, but that's true. And I see those values being eroded away. And Julian Assange is a victim of that. We're throwing our own culture away, our own civilization away. And what do you want to replace it with? When you have a good idea, when you have a good replacement, you let me know. But nobody has it out there, and it really angers me. And so I'm not going there to make friends, and I'm sure I'm not going to make any enemies. No, I'm sure of that, because these are people of really goodwill. Yeah. And I want to practice what I preach: dialogue, discussion. Okay, and that's what we need to do. We need to have a real discussion. We have to spread it out. That it's really important, because Julian Assange is being persecuted, not just prosecuted, persecuted, and we must come to his defense.
Indeed, sir. And can I just also add to that this is happening, of course, in Britain, in my own country.
Magna Carta, where is it now?
Magna Carta, exactly. Rule of law. You know, rule of law is expressions that we have come up with in England. I mean, you know, what has happened?
And the whole world wants that.
Exactly.
They want these values.
Yes.
As they erode away in the West, there are millions and hundreds of millions, billions of people that want these kinds of things. Okay.
Yes.
And we should never forget that. Never. Yes. And never forget that why do so many black and brown people want to go to the UK and go to the United States? Because they believe there they have the rule of law. Yes. They don't go there because they think it's a racist country. They don't. All this garbage you hear in the media.
Yeah. And of course, England has been the country with the English common law where we've never had torture. It's always been illegal. This is a fact people don't know, but even in the Middle Ages, torture was actually illegal in England. I mean, obviously the King and Queen and the government used to do it secretly, but it was theoretically always illegal. And now it's happening in plain sight. And it's being done to a person who is one of the great journalists, perhaps the greatest journalist of our time. Yes. So it's been a shocking thing. It's been a shocking thing for many people in England, and it's been very shocking for me personally. So I will be speaking at these events. And I think there's more than one. And I'll be meeting with Peter and hosting Peter, and we will be doing everything we can to support Assange in every way we can, and we will be keeping all our viewers at the Duran fully informed of all our actions.
Are there any links or anything we can reference viewers to? Are these open to people, guys? Is there any information, or we can add it later?
As soon as we're finished, I will immediately send you the link by email.
Okay, so I'll put that in the description as well, and people can look up the event and see what's going on.
Yes.
And it's great.
And
you guys are going. That's awesome.
And indeed. And for me and for my wife and my two dogs, we also have the great pleasure and huge anticipation of hosting Peter Lavelle, which is something we are very, very much looking forward to. Peter has in the past expressed some skepticism about London. We hope that we will be able to persuade him that there are good things in London as well.
Well, the best thing is you, your wife, and your dogs.
Indeed.
And you said people are asked that's Monday that everything's happening?
Or no, I think the event is on Tuesday. I arrive on Monday.
Okay, so the event is on Tuesday. It's a one-day event, correct?
Yeah. Well, the one I'm participating in is a one-off. It's a one-off thing, but I think there are a lot of other things going on.
A lot of other things.
Okay, great. So we'll put as many links as we can. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, the trial will be going on, and there'll be all kinds of events going on.
When is the trial?
I think that begins on Tuesday, actually.
Okay.
So at least in serious form, but can I just say the first couple of days in these kind of trials will be probably taken up with procedural points. The trial will go on until June, so it's going to be it was going to be 1 week, and then it was going to be 3 weeks, and it seems to be getting longer and longer all the time, which is a good sign.
Okay,
it's a good sign.
It's a good sign. All right, great. So we will put links to the event in the description box after this live stream is done.
Yeah.
Hopefully we will get some really good content from both Peter and Alexander, and we'll try to put together a live stream as well. And that's it. That's wrapping it up. Any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap this one up?
Well, as I said, do keep an eye on what we're going to be doing, Peter and I, during this event. And we've expressed some concerns about some of the tactics that have been used in the Assange case, but let's not lose sight of the big issue, which is that there is a human being at the center of this case who is in great jeopardy. And he is, as I said, one of the great journalists of our time. And it's also a case that involves our values. For me, this is going to be the big event of next week.
Yep.
Right. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this live stream. Have a great weekend wherever you are in the world. Share the channel, hit that like button. Duran Shop, PayPal, Patreon, Subscribe Star. Please help us out. We are getting demonetized all the time, and we are under attack all the time. So your support really helps us out a whole lot. Peter Lavelle, host of RT's Crosstalk in Moscow. Thank you very much. And Alexander Mercouris, the Oracle of London in London. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.